Lifestream is an ethereal substance existing on the planet. It is what gives life to the world and everything in it. Shinra, an electric power company, found a way to use the Lifestream as an energy source called Mako. Because of this, Midgar prospered and its inhabitants lived comfortably, but this was only possible at the expense of the planet's own life. Shinra's actions generated dissatisfaction from a certain group called Avalanche, and to achieve its goal, Shinra used its power in an attempt to prevent anyone from interfering with its plans. Shinra had a special force called Soldier. These warriors possessed Genova cells in their bodies, which made them super soldiers with superhuman strength, agility, and endurance, and an affinity for using materia. Genova was a calamity that came from the sky long ago and attempted to destroy the planet. Genova, which Shinra mistakenly believed to be a remnant of the Cetra race, an ancient civilization with a connection to the Lifestream, was used in a project called the Genova Project, which consisted of creating a hybrid human being. From this project emerged a soldier named Sephiroth, an exceptional warrior, the most powerful among Shinra's soldiers. However, when Sephiroth discovered his origins, he came to hate Shinra, and over time, he came to hate everything. Sephiroth was consumed by hatred and unleashed his wrath against all who stood in his way. Intense battles were fought and countless lives were sacrificed, among them one who became part of the Lifestream. Until the Judgment Day arrived and the planet itself had to fight for its survival, absorbing all conflicts, ambition, and sadness. The planet consumed them and used the Lifestream as a weapon. These events occurred 2 years ago, but the planet paid a high price for its survival. Geostigma is a plague that spread across Gaia after the battle against Sephiroth. This disease is incurable and can infect anyone since it is present in the Lifestream. Geostigma is an illness that affects the immune system and slowly consumes people's lives. Because of this, children are more affected. Although geostigma is not contagious, a large part of the population acts as if it were. Because of this, those who have been contaminated are excluded from society and left to die in the streets and alleys of the city. It is said that geostigma arose from the planet's fury against humanity for all they have done. But some believe that the planet is facing a new threat. 2 weeks ago, the Old Turks members, the personal bodyguards of the former Shinra president Rufus, headed to the northern cave to retrieve the Genova's head. Rufus believes there is a connection between geostigma and the extraterrestrial entity Genova. In an attempt to redeem his past mistakes, Rufus desires to understand the origin of this disease so that he can undo the chaos that his company Shinra brought upon the world. At the northern cave, Tseng, the leader of the Turks, and Elena, another member of the group, scoured the location of the meteor fall in search of Genova. However, their search was interrupted by the appearance of 3 new enemies, Kadaj, Loz, and Yazoo, who are the remnants of Sephiroth. They were formed as a physical manifestation of Sephiroth, each representing a fragment of his will. Kadaj is the representation of Sephiroth's hatred and rage. Loz is the manifestation of Sephiroth's physical strength and speed. Yazoo represents Sephiroth's charisma and aloof demeanor. They are avatars created by Sephiroth and serve to facilitate his physical resurrection in the world. Their goal is to find the mother and become one with her to conquer the planet. Rude and Reno show up at the northern cave to support Tseng and Elena, and a battle breaks out against the remnants. However, only Reno and Rude manage to escape the scene, taking along with them what the remnants were after. Meanwhile, over in the city of Edge, built to the east of Midgar after its destruction by the meteor, Tifa has set up her new bar, Seventh Heaven, and is living there with Cloud, who's hardly ever home, and 2 kids they've adopted as their own, Marlene, who used to be under Barrett's protection, but he had to leave to deal with matters from his past, and Denzel. 2 years ago, Denzel lived with his parents in Sector 7 of Midgar. After the destruction of Mako Reactor 1, Shinra planned an attack that would completely destroy Sector 7 to blame the Avalanche Group. Denzel's father, who worked for Shinra, discovered the company's plans and tried to take his family to Sector 5. However, Denzel's mother stayed behind to warn their neighbors and friends of the imminent destruction. While Denzel and his father were leaving, they encountered a man named Arkham, who also worked with Denzel's father and was fleeing Sector 7 as well. Denzel's father left him with Arkham and went back to search for his wife. A few hours later, the attack on Sector 7 occurred and the entire area was destroyed, resulting in Denzel losing his parents. Unsure of where to go, Denzel roamed the streets of Midgar until one day he encountered a woman named Ruby. Initially, Ruby intended to take Denzel back home, but upon learning the boy's story, Ruby adopted Denzel, and they began living together. When the meteor appeared in the sky, Ruby knew there was no safe place if the meteor hit the planet. So she chose to stay home until the end, and Denzel decided to stay with her to keep her company until the last moment. During the final battle, the life stream prevented the meteor impact, but the population still suffered the consequences of the confrontation. When the life stream emerged, Ruby's house filled with light. Ruby tried to protect Denzel, but they were caught in the energy explosion. The next morning, Denzel woke up to find the house destroyed, along with all the surrounding houses. Ruby survived, but was extremely weak and could barely get up. Ruby thanked Denzel for staying with her all this time. She had a son who worked for Shinra, but he hardly ever visited her. So the moments she could spend with Denzel meant a lot to Ruby. In the end, Ruby died as one of the first victims of Geostigma. Not long after Ruby's death, a man named Gaskin found Denzel. This man was taking survivors to the slums of Midgar, and Gaskin was with other children who were also orphaned. After they helped bury Ruby, everyone left together. With the end of the confrontation against Sephiroth, Geostigma quickly spread. Due to Midgar's current situation, many children started living alone in poor conditions, which helped the Geostigma spread fast. Despite not being contagious, children, due to having weaker immune systems, ended up being affected by the disease first. In the slums, Denzel joined a group of orphaned children who called themselves the Sector 7 Scavengers. This group collects scraps from the city's rubble to sell, and they were assisted by Gaskin. However, Geostigma doesn't only affect children, and Gaskin also contracted the disease. Geostigma affects each person differently. Some can live longer than others. Ruby died almost as soon as she contracted the disease, and Gaskin died a month later. One by one, the Sector 7 Scavengers lost their members, either to Geostigma or because they decided to abandon scavenging life due to lack of food. In the end, only Denzel and his friend Rix remained in the group. However, after a fight, the two friends separated, and Denzel decided to live alone. Denzel wandered through the Sector 5 slums in search of food until he stumbled upon a certain church where the Fenrir motorcycle was parked. Approaching it, Denzel found a cell phone and dialed the first number he saw, the 7th Heaven. On the other end, Tifa answered thinking it was a call from Cloud, but she heard Denzel crying and asked who the boy was. At that moment, due to the conditions Denzel was living in, he also contracted Geostigma. Luckily, Cloud found Denzel and took him back to Edge, where he began living with Tifa. From there, Cloud searched for a way to cure Denzel of this disease. Back in the present, Tifa gets a call from Rufus. He's looking for Cloud. Even though Tifa doesn't know exactly where Cloud is, she can still reach him by phone. In the Midgard desert, Cloud gets Tifa's message. She warns him that the Turks are at Helan and they have a job for him. In the message, Tifa also shows concern for her partner. The truth is, Cloud isn't searching for a cure because there isn't one for Geostigma. He's distanced himself from Tifa and the others because he's been infected too, and he doesn't want his close ones to suffer from his eventual death. Besides, Cloud is going through increasing depression and a strong sense of guilt. for not being able to save two important people from his past, Aerith and Zack. As Cloud heads towards his destination, the remnants watch from afar. Kadaj, the group's leader, sends Yazoo and Loz after their brother. The battle in the desert begins. The remnants summon shadow creepers to attack Cloud. He uses his swords to defend himself while balancing on his Fenrir motorcycle. Loz approaches, asking about their mother, but Cloud remains silent, and the conflict continues. The remnants are determined to find the mother at any cost and believe Cloud is with her. However, Cloud ignores them and presses on in the battle. Due to geostigma, Cloud is in a less favorable position as his body constantly suffers from the illness. This gives the remnants an edge, but bullets seem ineffective as Cloud takes a shot to the face without harm. Cloud is surrounded by the shadow creepers, but before he is attacked, Kadaj orders the group to retreat, leaving Cloud confused. Just before the end of the confrontation, Kadaj was talking to Rufus on the phone. He knows the former president of Shinra as the mother. Not long after, Cloud arrives at Helan Lodge, the Turks' hideout. He's welcomed by Reno and Rude, both testing the former soldier's strength, but their main topic is different. Cloud is surprised to know that Rufus is still alive, but he has no interest in working with Shinra again. Rufus acknowledges that he and his company owe a lot to the planet. After his near-death experience, he no longer wishes to continue on the path of destruction. He feels responsible for the current state of the planet, so he has gathered the Turks again, and they've already begun investigating Sephiroth's awakening. Rufus mentions that geostigma isn't caused by the life stream because this energy has always existed on the planet. Thus, it doesn't make sense for it to start infecting people only now. It's also not Shinra's fault or the fault of their Mako energy, as they've used Mako energy for 40 years without any infection cases. However, what has changed in the last 2 years that could have caused this plague? Rufus believes that after Sephiroth's death, somehow he dissolved into the life stream and infected the planet's energy. Rufus knows this is just a possibility, but he decided to investigate nonetheless and sent the Turks to the northern cave. But they were attacked by the remnants before completing their investigations. This event also marked the Avatar's awakening. Rufus knows the remnants have a deep connection with Sephiroth and are preparing for Sephiroth's resurrection. Rufus asks for Cloud's help, but the ex-soldier refuses to be part of Shinra or anything related to it again. However, if they want to cure the people, they'll need to understand the truth behind geostigma. Meanwhile, in Sector 5, Tifa and Marlene arrive at Aerith's church, searching for Cloud. After leaving Seventh Heaven, Cloud started living in this church. It's one of the rare places in Midgar with fertile soil because Mako reactors destroyed vegetation, leaving the land barren. While waiting for Cloud, Tifa finds some bandages, indicating that Cloud is also sick. Tifa realizes that Cloud didn't isolate himself to fight the illness, but rather because he had given up. She and Marlene decide to scold Cloud when he returns. However, Loz also appears at the church in search of the mother. To protect Marlene and the church, Tifa engages in battle against the enemy. Tifa attacks Loz, and due to her monstrous strength, she manages to maintain pressure throughout the entire fight. Loz spends most of the time defending himself, waiting for an opportunity to counterattack, while Tifa delivers increasingly powerful blows. Even when she is attacked, she still withstands the damage. The battle doesn't last long, as Tifa's attacks manage to knock down Loz. However, the victory doesn't last long. Loz gets up again, receives a phone call, and then decides he will take Marlene. Once again, the battle starts, but now Loz is using all his strength. Because of this, he manages to defeat Tifa with a few attacks. However, before he can deliver the final blow, Marlene throws a materia at Loz. When the villain realizes she has a box full of materia, he decides to leave Tifa aside and take both Marlene and the materia with him. Meanwhile, back at Helan, Reno and Rude are talking. Both are concerned about Tseng and Elena. Despite not knowing what happened to them in the northern cave, Rude believes they're still alive. Reno also thinks this could be a fresh start for them and for Shinra, this time doing what's right, even though it's hard to repair all the damage they caused by almost destroying the world. Suddenly, smoke appears from the door. Kadaj has found their hideout. Kadaj defeats Rude and Reno. He's there to retrieve what Rufus stole from the northern cave. Kadaj tells Rufus he needs to find the mother so they can start the reunion. Geostigma was the first part of the villain's plan. Jenova's legacy lives in the life stream and was responsible for it. Kadaj needs both Geostigma and the legacy for the reunion to happen, but without Jenova's cells, the mother won't be complete. Rufus tries to understand what Kadaj means by this legacy, so the villain shows the energy present within him. In the desert, at the spot where Cloud left the Buster Sword, he remembers his promise to his friend. Cloud carries Zack's will, but he doubts if he can keep the promise. Suddenly, Cloud feels Sephiroth's presence through the Geostigma. Immediately, he heads back to Edge. In Edge, Denzel encounters a girl infected with Geostigma carrying her brother, who had just died from the illness. Denzel tries to help her, but she refuses and continues to carry her brother alone. Not long after, the girl returns to thank Denzel and tells him about a no-so-strange guy offering a cure for Geostigma. Then Denzel and several other children are taken by Yazoo. Back at the church, Cloud arrives to find Tifa unconscious. He approaches to help her. Tifa informs him that Marlene has been taken. Before Cloud can act, he feels the effects of Geostigma and faints. Due to Sephiroth's presence, Geostigma is spreading faster. Cloud wakes up beside Tifa at 7th Heaven. They were assisted by Rude and Reno. The Turks inform them that the children have been taken. While Reno and Rude search for the children's whereabouts, Tifa tries to convince Cloud that he shouldn't go through this alone. Even if there's no cure for Geostigma, they can still stick together. However, Cloud, burdened by guilt, doesn't believe he can save anyone. He can't forgive himself for Aerith and Zack's deaths. Later, Rude and Reno return, saying the children were taken to the Forgotten City. First, Cloud tells Rude and Reno to go there, but Tifa scolds him. She's tired of Cloud's self-pity. He can't run away forever. Tifa knows that despite everything, Cloud doesn't want to be alone, but he needs to move forward, forgive himself, and understand that it wasn't his fault. Meanwhile, in the Forgotten City, Kadaj's group begins preparations for the reunion. Kadaj believes materia to be a gift from Jenova, so they decide to use it to further enhance their powers. Kadaj knows that Jenova's cells are with Shinra, so they need to force the former president to hand over what they desire. Kadaj manipulates the children, telling them that Geostigma is a gift, a power inherited through Jenova's legacy, present in the life stream. However, the planet is rejecting this power, causing illness to its heirs. With the promise of curing them, Kadaj infects the water with negative life stream for the children to drink, thus controlling them. Cloud is heading towards the Forgotten City. Along the way, he feels Aerith's presence. She asks Cloud why he went, and Cloud says he wishes to be forgiven. But Aerith laughs and questions who Cloud wants forgiveness from, and her presence vanishes soon after. Aerith's death and Zack's sacrifice haunt Cloud's memories. Minutes later, he encounters the remnants, who are now controlling the children. The only one not being controlled is Marlene, since she doesn't have Geostigma. Unable to attack the children, Cloud finds himself cornered by the villains. Despite facing the enemies, Cloud struggles to keep up with Laws and Yazoo's attack combination. Cloud notices Kadaj isn't in the battle and decides to attack him, even though he couldn't defeat the other two. They exchange blows, but Kadaj has the upper hand until a large red cloak appears, protecting Cloud. It's Vincent. He attacks the remnants and swiftly removes Cloud from the battlefield. Elsewhere in the forest, Cloud asks Vincent if he knows anything. Vincent explains that geostigma appears when the body tries to protect itself from a certain harmful substance. Unable to expel it, the body begins to decay while fighting the disease. Vincent says this is what the remnants call the legacy of Jenova, or the Sephiroth gene. Vincent tells Cloud he found Tseng and Elena, both badly wounded, but he managed to save them. They were searching for Jenova's head, the mother the remnants are so desperately seeking. If they acquire this item, they might be able to bring Sephiroth back. Suddenly, they hear a noise from the forest, but it's just Marlene taking advantage of the confusion to escape. Cloud asks Vincent to take Marlene to Seventh Heaven because he needs to contact Shinra, but Marlene refuses and scolds Cloud. He continues to flee. Even Vincent realizes what's happening. Cloud would rather fight than be responsible for someone's safety. Cloud is trapped in a memory. He asks Vincent if sins can be forgiven, if failures can be forgotten, but Vincent says he never tried, although Vincent is a terrible advisor. Cloud says he will try and then lets them know how it went. He and Marlene return to Edge. Meanwhile, in the city, the remnants initiate their plan. They believe Shinra hid Jenova's head in the Meteorfall monument at the city center. They're using the children to keep people away while they attempt to bring down the monument. Yazoo summons the Shadow Creepers to attack civilians, causing chaos as the monsters assault everyone in the main square. Tifa appears and finds Denzel in a trance. She tries to get the boy out of there, but he remains still. Rude and Reno also show up to help. They taunt the villains, and a battle begins. Meanwhile, Cloud ensures Marlene's safety at the bar before joining the fray in the square. Elsewhere in the city, Kadaj is with the former Shinra's president, Rufus. Rufus asks what their ultimate goal is. Kadaj says he feels Sephiroth's presence under his skin, although he never met the villain. Even though Jenova chose Sephiroth, all Kadaj can do is obey his mother's requests and bring destruction upon the world. But Rufus believes that no matter how many times Jenova returns or Sephiroth is resurrected, if the energy of the life stream always returns to the planet, constantly repeating this cycle, it means that history could also repeat itself. No matter how many battles are fought, they will triumph. Intrigued by Rufus's words, Kadaj decides it's time for them to know how it's all going to end. Kadaj unleashes a summoning in the middle of the square. A great energy gathers in the sky, and then Bahamut Sin appears. The dragon heads toward the Meteorfall monument, where Tifa still is. Bahamut attacks the area in search of Jenova's head. Reno and Rude realize this might be too big of a problem for them to handle, so they flee, trying to save as many children as possible with them. Bahamut focuses its power and blasts the statue, pushing everyone away. After recovering, Rude and Reno continue their fight against the remnants. Despite taking a beating, they keep fighting. They may not be that strong, but they are resilient. Back in the square, Bahamut doesn't find what it's looking for, but the attack causes the children to regain consciousness. Denzel tries to protect Tifa from Bahamut, which quickly proves to be not the wisest idea. Fortunately, Avalanche is back. Since the Meteorfall, the group had retired, but now the members reunite. Barrett is the first to appear and stops Denzel from attacking the dragon. Then Red 13 and Kate Sith attack Bahamut as it takes flight. The other members start to arrive. Yuffie saves Barrett from the dragon's attack, and with her is Sid, bringing his new airship, the Shera. Vincent also joins the battle. Tifa takes advantage of her friends distracting the dragon and tries to get Denzel to safety since the city is still infested with shadow creepers. However, they are attacked, but Cloud arrives just in time to save them. Denzel decides to return to the bar alone. Now Tifa and Cloud can join the battle. The whole group joins forces to confront Bahamut. Since the dragon didn't find Jenova's head, it's out of control, destroying the entire city. Vincent and the others try to lure it upwards to prevent the civilians from being hit in the confrontation. Cloud charges at the dragon, but his attacks don't inflict much damage due to Bahamut's armor. The dragon decides to use its most powerful attack, flying high and gathering energy. To reach it before it can destroy the city, Cloud receives help from all his comrades, pushing him upwards until he reaches the dragon. Bahamut unleashes the Petaflare, and Cloud focuses his limit break. But he gets one more assistance, one last hand that boosts him toward his target. With the momentum of the life stream itself, Cloud pierces through the Petaflare and strikes Bahamut, cutting its body and ending the summoning. But that was just one of the problems. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, Kadaj admired the power of his summon when Rufus reveals he had Jenova's cells all along. He throws the box off the building and then jumps. Desperate, Kadaj leaps to save his mother. Below, Reno and Rude are still facing the other remnants. During the fall, Rufus shoots and hits the container, causing some of its contents to spill out. At the same time, Cloud is closing in on the scene. Seng and Eleanor appear to save Rufus, but Kadaj manages to grab the box. Now they have everything they need to complete the reunion. The remnants flee, but they are pursued by Cloud, leading to another confrontation using motorcycles. Los and Yazoo are tasked with delaying Cloud, while Kadaj tries to escape to continue the plan. The battle stretches across the expressway connecting Midgar and Edge. Reno and Rude, the most persistent guys in the Turks, deserved a raise for how hard they work. They show up once again to help, even if it means destroying a large part of the highway that was being rebuilt. They're attacked by Yazoo, who manages to make his motorcycle leap high enough to reach the helicopter. But since nothing can knock down these two, Reno and Rude survive. Yet it's not time to rest. They have work to do. Cloud keeps being pursued inside a tunnel. No matter how many times they jump off their bikes, they somehow always manage to get back to their vehicles. Inside the tunnel, they spend more time in the air and hardly any time on the bikes. Cloud manages to destroy their weapon, giving him a chance to get some distance from the enemies. As he exits the tunnel, there they are again, Reno and Rude, the unstoppable duo. This time they're armed with bombs because destroying the highway wasn't enough. This is their final move. As Cloud passes by them, they detonate the bombs, taking the remnants with them. No, Rude and Reno didn't die. Nobody can kill this duo. Cloud catches up to Kadaj, and their battle takes them to Sector 5 of Midgar. Kadaj heads to the church and notices that the box is cracked, but he doesn't have time to mourn his mother. Cloud appears to end this fight. Kadaj manages to escape once again by destroying part of the pillars supporting the church. During the attack, the flower garden is destroyed, and from the ground emerged a water column, creating a small rain in the area, flooding the area where the flowers once stood. This water is infused with a life stream and heals Cloud's geostigma. Kadaj takes advantage of the opportunity to flee. Cloud realizes that the water wasn't a coincidence. Once again, he receives help from his old friend. Cloud pursues Kadaj to the ruins of the old Shinra building. This time, Kadaj is waiting for him. Tired of running, Kadaj decides to accept his fate as a puppet. If he's only there to fulfill Jenova's wishes, then so be it. Avalanche arrives to provide support. Yuffie and Barrett want to help, but Vincent advises them to let the two fight. Kadaj is like a lava of Sephiroth, as if Cloud is once again facing his greatest enemy. Perhaps this will help him overcome the past and forgive himself once and for all. Tifa agrees with Vincent. Despite the others not understanding what Vincent said, they decide to let Cloud handle it alone. They know their friend is capable. Tifa believes Cloud lost his way after the battle 2 years ago, but now he seems to have found it again. This confrontation holds a much deeper meaning than just saving the world. It's time to put an end to the past and memories. Kadaj realizes he's going to lose, so he decides to fulfill Jenova's wishes and absorbs her cells. Cloud tries to prevent the process from completing, but it's in vain. The reunion is done, and Sephiroth is back. Sephiroth manipulates the energy of all those killed by Geostigma and sends them back into the life stream. His goal is to corrupt the planet's energy so he can merge with it, becoming a new kind of Jenova. Thus, he will navigate the universe in search of a new planet where he can start anew. The battle begins. Meanwhile, the corrupted life stream begins to descend and spread throughout the city. Those affected by Geostigma are the first to feel it. However, just as there is a force that wishes to destroy the planet, there is also one that wishes to protect it. The fight continues through the ruins of Midgar, with Sephiroth always having the upper hand. Due to doubts and fear, Cloud can't confront his enemy properly. Even with Cloud attacking continuously, Sephiroth faces no difficulty in the fight. Cloud starts to grow tired, making things even worse for him. Sephiroth completely dominates the battle and severely injures Cloud. Sephiroth reveals his wing and throws Cloud high into the air, attacking him without hesitation, leaving Cloud in a critical situation. Sephiroth wants to take everything important from Cloud. Then, the ex-soldier remembers his friends and family. Once, Sephiroth took someone important from him, and that won't happen again. Before the villain can land the final blow, Zack appears to give Cloud strength, encouraging him not to give up. After all, he defeated Sephiroth before, and they made a promise. Cloud is the proof that Zack existed. Cloud is his living legacy. With no doubts in his heart, Cloud moves forward for the final blow, activating his Limit Break Omnislash. Cloud unleashes a sequence of direct strikes on Sephiroth, ending the confrontation. Before disappearing, Sephiroth says he will never be a memory. The villain leaves his avatar behind. Kadaj still tries to fight, but his body is weakened. Before dying, Kadaj hears a voice telling him that he can rest now. Imagining it to be his mother's voice, he lets himself be carried away, and his body joins the life stream. With the end of the confrontation, Sephiroth's will vanishes along with his corrupted energy. A rain begins to fall, the drops infused with life stream carrying the cure for Geostigma, freeing the world from this affliction. Everyone who was ill has been healed. Well, not everyone, because Denzel was indoors while the rain was happening, so he wasn't healed yet. Back in the battle, Cloud thought everything was over, but suddenly he's hit by a shot. Yazoo and Laws were still alive. They wanted Cloud to join them, so they tried to kill him. The two end up dying in an energy explosion caused by the excess of materia they carried. At the bar, Denzel and Marlene receive a call telling them to go to the church. Not only them, but all the children who were still infected are also called to the same place. Cloud also receives help he imagines is from his mother, but Aerith thinks it's funny that everyone is calling her mother now, although Zack believes it's because everyone loves her. The truth is, it's not yet time for Cloud to join the live stream. He still has much to live for. Cloud wakes up in the church, surrounded by children. The flower garden has now turned into a large lake. This water holds the energy of the life stream. Cloud calls Denzel into the lake and bathes him with the water, cleansing the Geostigma from his body. All the other children who hadn't been healed jump into the lake to put an end to this plague that affected the world for 2 years. Cloud finally managed to forgive himself and accepted that his memories and his past cannot hold him back from moving forward. Even with the losses, Cloud still has family and friends who care about him and for whom he must fight. And who knows, perhaps one day, when the time comes, Aerith and Zack will be waiting for him. Some time later, Denzel, now completely healed, seeks a way to help others, just like his hero Cloud. So, he requests an interview with the WRO, World Regenesis Organization, a group dedicated to restoring and protecting the planet. Denzel wishes to join this group. The boy meets with Reeve Tuesti, the current president of the WRO, at a bar named Johnny's Heaven, located near the city of Edge. Reeve asks Denzel to tell his story. Denzel recounts everything that happened, from the destruction of Sector 7, the loss of his parents, the time he spent with Ruby, his life as a scavenger, the moment he met Cloud, to the end of Geostigma. After hearing the boy's story, Reeve explains that the WRO is no longer accepting children for enlistment in the organization. However, before leaving, Reeve thanks Denzel for taking care of his mother, Ruby. Then Reeve heads back to the city. Johnny asks Denzel why he wants to join the WRO, and Denzel says it's because he wants to be as strong as Cloud. Johnny mentions that there are other ways to help people, but Denzel wishes to follow in the footsteps of the one he admires the most. The life stream is an ethereal substance existing within the planet. It is what gives life to the world and everything in it, flowing beneath the surface, containing the essence of the planet, memories, emotions, and knowledge of all who have ever lived on it, connecting life and death. Even though some may use this energy for their own benefit or even try to destroy it, the flow of life will continue to move through the planet, and over the years, it will bring back everything that was once lost.